The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the speakers and guest. They do not represent the views of our sponsors or any entities they represent. Enjoy the Big A Talk Show.
What's going on, people? I'm your host, Big A, and this is the Big A Talk Show. Let's get it. Rage in America, killers at large. Now, I know for a lot of you, you probably hear the word rage in America and you think about all of the political protest and all the violence in the street. But today we're going to talk about something different. We're going to talk about road rage, killers at large. Now, what they say, I'm talking about these studies that have been done, say, environmental factors, right? Such as crowded roads can boost the anger behind the wheel. So the road is crowded, I'm angry, and I'm behind the wheel, right? Then they say there's psychological factors such as displaced anger. I mean, what is that? Displaced anger. So you're racist and you're angry and this leads to road rage, or you're a black man. I think of Colin Ferguson, right? The world undid me wrong, so this will lead to road rage. Or you got into an argument with your wife. I've displaced it. I argued with her. We left for the day. This causes road rage. And then the next thing they talk about is high life stress. I don't know about y'all. Paying bills, raising kids. If you're not raising kids, I mean, even a puppy, a brand new puppy in the house can lead to high life stress. But studies have found that this is also linked to road rage. Now, in addition, they say that misuse of drugs and alcohol also lead to road rage. Like I say, somebody drinking and driving, they shouldn't be doing it. But again, this could be the cause or one of the leading causes of road rage. This is what they say. Now, I disagree, and this is why I disagree. Let me tell you a story. There was a guy, and he was living in Philadelphia, and he was like any one of us. The man was working hard. He was 54 years old, raising his family, getting up a normal day, going to work. It was a Wednesday, so it's that midweek, but we call it hump day, right? So this guy is right in the middle of hump day. He leaves out of his house and 8:40 a.m. Now, if you are living in a city like Philadelphia, for those that are listening to this podcast, if you're driving, if you're on the train, you're walking, and for those watching me right now on a streaming service, I'm reading off of a headline kind of clip that I put in there. The gentleman's name is King Howe, and King was leaving like any other day on his way to work. This is in Philadelphia. At 8:40 a.m., plow, 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 King loses his life in a road rage incident. Now, the question is, Adrian, why are you talking about road rage where we know road rage happens every day? What I'm talking about is road rage killers at large. This man's killer. The person who killed King is still out there. For you driving, I want you to look in front of you, look to the left, look to the right. That person in that vehicle could be a killer. For those that are on the train and you're listening to this, you're walking, you're on the streets of Philadelphia and you're listening to my podcast, you're in your office, you're working. That person next to you could be a killer. They have not found this man's killer. But here's what really gets me about these studies, right? When we talk about displaced anger, I just want to leave that there. According to witnesses, so there were actual witnesses here, a dark sports utility vehicle, stay there with me, used the shoulder of the road. So there was people that was blocking the path between King and his killer, that the person had to get on the shoulder of the road in order to shoot inside of his car. They pulled ahead of him. A male passenger actually got out of the vehicle and fired 2 shots right through his windshield. Plow, plow, and killed this man. Now, when I first read this article, I read it as, we're almost becoming what's the word I'm looking for here? We're almost becoming numb. That's the word, right? To all the violence that's happening on our streets. So when I read this article, I thought to myself, here goes another example of somebody going crazy, right? It almost feels like crazy in America. And they decided that today I'm going to kill someone. What led to this? The studies have said they believe it's misplaced anger, or maybe the use of drugs, or maybe they've had a high stress day. I don't agree with that. Now, here's why I don't agree with that. I'm going to tell you another story. And this story is about a young man, right? This is a high school, and his name is Gabriel Zamora. And the reason why I'm bringing this podcast to you today is the Gabriel Zamora story really broke my heart. Here's a young 14-year-old. He is out for just a beautiful, beautiful day. He's with his sister, right? He's with her husband. They have 2 twin babies, not 2 twin children, 4 or 5. These are babies, right? Under 3 years old. And they're driving home after a fun day at the bowling alley. Somebody cuts them off. So instinctively, right? They beep their horn at him like, dude, what are you doing? There's babies in the car. And I'm going to get to this in a minute here. Seconds later, the driver of this truck turns around and there's another person in the car. They fire 5 shots. 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 blah. They shot Gabriel in his head, his arm, and his torso. And Gabriel passed away. And the reason why it really struck my heart is here's this young kid losing his life because the violence in America, the rage in America is getting so out of hand that someone decided today is the day I'm going to kill someone. And remember the title of this podcast. It is Road Rage, Killers at Large. The killer of Gabriel Zamora is still out there. So if you know this, you know that there is a killer out there. At this time, people coming home, you've seen the car. And this is what gets me about Americans. We have, and this really happens in places like New York, where I call it bystander apathy, right? You've ever seen this? 4 or 5 guys, they beating the heck out of somebody and people are just standing. In today's world, before we are called to duty, before we act, we'll pull out our phones, right? World Star. This is the type of society that we're living in, where this young man can be killed and their killer is still at large. America, we have killers that are still at large. People who have committed road rage killings that are still at large. Now, there was one other study, and this one really gets me. So part of this study says, hey, the reason why, and I don't mean to make light of it, that people are having road rage, or this came from a Zebra study where it said tailgating, distracted driving, or getting cut off. This is what they say. Now I'm going to tell you what I believe. This is what I say. Tailgating. Have you ever been driving and you look out your rearview mirror and you're like, dude, this person is so close up on you that you're like, if I tap on my brakes, you're going to crash into my car. If you're driving in the city, I know you experience this all the time. Like, what do you think is going to happen? Are you going to go around me, or are you going to jump over me? Like, what do you think happens by you being so close to my vehicle that the slightest adjustment that I make, now we're in a crash? So when I think of tailgating, I think, yes, there is some psychological stuff going on. Here's the example. I was driving home one day and I'm driving at the speed limit. I like to call this driving while black. I do not drive to get tickets or give police in America any reason to pull me over. I am the type of man that I drive at the speed limit, which may drive some people crazy. No pun intended. And as I'm looking at my rearview mirror, this woman comes steaming, full steam ahead. And I'm thinking to myself, is she about to crash into the back of my car? Like, I can see her through the rearview mirror. And she pulls up, she's tailgating, she's right on my bumper, and I see her in the car, and she's like, I don't know, like talking to herself. She's like, ah, ah, ah. And I don't know what she's saying, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, wow, you're so angry. Like, what? And she cut around, sped up in front of me, and then cut in front of me. So, I mean, have you ever experienced that, right? So they speed up to you, then they cut around you, and then they get in front of you. Like, is that a statement you want to show me? Like, something, I'm going too slow, so I'm going to cut around and jump around you. But I remembered it because as I'm watching this person speed off in front of me, they did it to another individual. And I thought to myself, if they're willing to put themselves, their life at risk, if they're willing to risk my life, right, and the lives of others, then yes, maybe that person has a psychological issue going on. Maybe high life stress is really getting to that individual. This is road rage, right? The second one is what I want to highlight. Now, the Zebra study talks about getting cut off. Here's my feelings on drivers who cut other drivers off. I've said this to my children as they've grown up, as they've been in vehicles with me. I was driving one time with my daughters. They were younger, and we were taking them to dance school. And as I'm driving, just again, obeying the speed limits, somebody, 3 lanes of traffic, cuts across and almost crashes into me. When I say the amount of rage that was going through me at that moment towards that individual, I'm not a killer. No, I didn't want to kill him, but I must say, if we were standing toe to toe, mano y mano, I might have bust somebody in the mouth. And the reason is you're putting my children and my life at risk by cutting us off. No signaling, no doing the right thing, looking over your shoulder, right? You know that? Look over your shoulder, check your blind spot, get into the lane. No, they just cut us off. I was in rage. I don't have diagnosed psychological issues. I don't have high life stress. I wasn't under the influence of alcohol or drugs. I was cut off, and my life and the life of my children were put at risk. At that time, what did I do? Just like Gabriel Zamora and his family, I beeped on my horn because I was so enraged that this person would take my life and put my life at risk. So when I talk about road rage and rage in America, I know that there are things that we as people do. And if you're listening to this podcast and you'll be driving soon, I want you to think about what I said. Before you cut someone off, are you putting yourself, are you putting their family, are you putting their lives at risk? Before you're so quick to anger, maybe ask yourself, maybe that individual is experiencing some type of high life stress. And let them be. I think about Gabriel Zamora, I think about King Hao, and I think about the pain that their families are going through. And part of that pain is because the killers, the people who went into road rage, pulled out a weapon and decided to kill someone, they're still at large. And there's going to be a whole series. I'm dropping these podcasts on Tuesdays, possibly Thursdays as well. I'll try to be sure that I let you know. And the new series, part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all these different aspects of our society where people feel as though the easiest thing to do is to pull out a gun and kill someone. What's really getting to me, and I'm going to leave you all with this final thought. Why haven't witnesses come forward? Why haven't the police looked at CCTV? Is it because King Hao and Gabriel Zamora are minorities and the police in these states that they live in are not giving the attention that they would give if it was a 14-year-old, blue hair, blonde eyed white girl who was shot and killed in a road rage incident? I don't know the answers to that. But I think, and you all use the comments here, you comment on it. Why haven't we found these killers at large? Big A Talk Show.